G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/EntitledPeople. Now I know you love this one, and I know you hate Karens. So with that said, tackle the like button like you would tackle a Karen. And if you want to, chuck an Aussie flag, chuck an American flag, chuck whatever flag you want down in the comments. With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, prepare to yell at the absurdity of these situations, and just have a good day. Enjoy the content. Posted by user Konatada, titled, "Guy steals money from me and boasts about it being a hard worker." So this happened back in March. For some context, I'm a 19-year-old, 18 then, female, and I work at a job I absolutely hate, but my work ethic won't allow me to half-ass it. In March, I wanted to buy a piano for myself since my birthday was a month away. I don't like spending my money all that often, so I went to Facebook Marketplace, the best place, to find something a little cheaper. First mistake. I found a cool Casio from a college student, Ass for short. I spoke with him about buying the piano and delivery because I live quite a ways away. The piano itself was $350, but I paid an additional $80 for him going through the trouble of delivering it to me. Second mistake. Here's the lesson, kiddos. Never send money through PayPal without it being through the market section. After sending the money and then waiting until Thursday, sitting in the park that we agreed to meet at for 2 hours, and then driving around aimlessly while waiting for a reply from Ass, I'd been blocked. So I was out $430 and have to continuously make it up at a job that causes me an abhorrent amount of stress for what I do, and the police won't do anything due to everything that is going on, and that's no fault of their own. I tried to look for other means of contact so I could reason with him rather than immediately going to the police. I wound up finding a lot, but what struck me most was a post on his Instagram boasting about how hard he worked and that his boss gave him a piano, the same piano that he was selling. The reason I put this into r/EntitledPeople is because people like this think they're entitled to your hard work. Don't be stupid like me. Use your brain even if you're trusting. I know that this has definitely shifted my faith in people. People who do this are not hard workers. They're crooks and cowards. He mentioned money makes the world go round, but that doesn't make you any less of an a-hole. Jesus Christ, that really is a despicable thing to do, but don't understand why they paid for it beforehand. Don't these transactions usually go cash in hand? I don't understand. People have seen so many examples of being scammed by frauds these days. Why would you not just take cash in hand so you can absolutely ensure that you're not being scammed? You know, it just takes the complete incentive away. But I guess people learn from mistakes like this, so we can't blame OP entirely for this happening, and I really hope that they make that money back or can get some justice in this situation. Posted by user Konatada, "He stole my money from me, updated." Hello. So my previous post was about how this guy on Facebook Marketplace stole $430 from me for a piano that I never got. And then I saw him boasting about his hard work on Instagram. Bada bing, bada boom. But there is an update, my good lads. A few days after this incident, I had contacted his mother. I told the tale of the thief that stole my wit and money. I figured that this wouldn't work because people don't usually reply to messages from strangers. However, I received a message this morning from her. We had a conversation and she was very formal and asked a lot of questions. I provided proof to every question, and for about an hour, everything was silent, and she said she would keep in touch. I received all of my money back plus tax. I could only assume that the guy who stole it was torn in 15 pieces by his mum, and by golly, what a god. Mums are the best. My case was very abnormal, but let's take a moment to praise Mrs. B. Thank you, Miss B. Very cool. I'm glad that Miss B was able to fix this situation for OP. It's not every day, it's obviously not every year either, that we have situations like this get fixed, and I'm very glad that OP was able to get this one fixed as well as it was. Get that man torn asunder, 15 pieces, splay him across the room. That's the karma that we deserve in this world. Also, it's very rare to get an update post for r/EntitledPeople, so this is a once-in-a-lifetime post, isn't it? Posted by user Cinnamon Witcher, titled, "Entitled Aunt tries to get into the house, gets denied." Gonna make this short because if I told all the details, it would make 3 posts at least. My grandmother broke her leg, and for 5 years, my mother cared for her every day, despite my grandmother treating her like crap. Mum has 4 other siblings. One, entitled aunt, lived 10 minutes from grandmother and refused to help because it was just too far to drive, etc. Entitled auntie was constantly taking money from grandmother, and when mum would call her on her crap, she'd get mad and leave. Well, auntie decided to move out of state and didn't tell anyone she was going, which broke grandma's heart, because entitled auntie was her favorite. So entitled auntie makes no effort to call, check up, anything on grandmother, and when grandma gets put in hospice, actually says, "My granddaughter is getting married, 3rd time, so I'll see mum then." Said granddaughter wasn't getting married for a month. Anyway, grandma holds on, aunt keeps calling other aunt and uncle, never mum, and asking for updates. And when they don't have any, she tells other aunt, "Okay, you need to tell me when she's close because we need to go through the house and really search it because I know there's money in that house." This gets relayed to my mother through non-entitled aunts. So when grandma actually died, we weren't expecting her to show up. Guess what? She was on her way ASAP. So aunt is hauling ass to the house because we all know entitled aunt is on her way. Entitled aunt gets there with entitled cousin, and I very politely greet them and inform them that entitled aunt cannot come into the house. This starts a massive fight, because cousin is the type to A, blow crap out of proportion, and B, literally push her way into the house like what we say means nothing. I shut her down right there, preparing to be attacked. Mum eventually comes out, and it continues the fight where aunt is screaming. "Why can't I come in?" Mum yells back, "Because you didn't give a crap about Mum when she was alive, so you sure as hell don't get to come around now that she's dead." Aunt calls me scum, tells Mum she raised scum, and cousin gets back into the car, threatening me by saying when other aunt arrives, she will let them in. Newsflash, she didn't. They called uncle, he told them he didn't give a crap and hung up on them. So now cousin is threatening to call a lawyer and have us sued for what she claims is her mother's rightful inheritance, which she was given, but threw back at me like a little brat. Didn't hurt much, it was only $5. Jesus Christ, the pettiness on some people in these situations, hey? $5, whoa, that's all she got inherited from the mum? She deserves half of that for not being present when her mum was still alive. I've seen situations like this throughout my own life where families will fight over the stupidest of things, and it is honestly scary how much people turn when money gets involved in these scenarios. So I really feel for OP in this situation. They didn't deserve to have crazy come at them like this. Posted by user Sad Cosplays, titled, "Entitled neighbour expects us to pay £800 vet bill after a straily feed and her cat got into a fight. We've been feeding a random stray cat for the last 10 years. However, it never enters our home, and we believe that it may have been abandoned by a previous owner. Today, a neighbour came to our door and said that our cat scratched up their cat, and that we have to pay them £800 for the vet bill. We tell her that it's a stray, and she says that she saw it enter our home. However, it only goes onto the patio, so she is incorrect. Then after we say this, she says that she saw it go inside our house, which we once again deny. We, me and my dad, are pretty frustrated by this point. We're currently trying to renovate our home, so we don't have £800 to spend on a vet bill, which we are not responsible for. This woman continues rambling on about how her cat is purebred and expensive and whatever, and we tell her that if she doesn't want it getting into fights, then she should try to keep it inside the house, as it is natural for cats to fight for territory. After a bit more back and forth, she leaves after saying that she will mail the bill to us, which causes my dad to tell her that he will not pay for it. Update. My dad contacted a lawyer who said that she has no right to force the charges onto us, as the cat is not legally ours. Also, I just found out that the woman also said that she has a friend who is our neighbor from behind our garden who has a camera recording us. We are an immigrant family and moved to the UK 20-ish years ago, which is illegal. We did not give permission for the camera to be placed there. I will update if anything else happens. Update. Apparently the cat that had our neighbor's cat is actually a different cat. My take on this is, if it's a purebred and expensive cat like she's saying, why is it not being kept inside the house? If you don't want it getting in fights, don't even run the risk of having it outside. Why are they being filmed in their own backyard when they've been living in the UK for 20 years? How racist can some people be? Also, with people like this, you've got to start recording every instance of communication or anything you have with them, because who knows what they're going to turn on you? Who knows if they're going to be violent? People are unpredictable and scary. Screw that person. And isn't it great that the immigrant family is the one that gets turned on with the cat being theirs, when it wasn't even the stray cat in the end of this story? Really makes you think, doesn't it? Really activates those almonds. Posted by user Harkle Canada, titled, "Give me a chunk of your daughter's hair." Look, I know the title sounds crazy and fake, but my mum says the story really happened and I trust her. Plus, I remember bits of this encounter. I've been to Florida many times, so I have a lot of stories. This took place when I was 3, and at the time, I had very curly and very red hair. Now that it is very long, it's not curly, but more wavy. I've gotten many compliments about my hair, but this is the craziest story that I have. Keep in mind that my hair color cannot be matched, and if you want to dye your hair the same as mine, it's not possible. I don't understand where a claim like that comes from, but go off, sis. We were at Disney World, and my aunt, baby cousin, and older sister, and my mum went to the bathroom. My mum was fixing my hair, as it was all over the place from the humidity, when she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned around to see Karen and her daughter around the same age as me. Karen's like, "Hello, I couldn't help but notice your daughter's hair and how pretty it is." "Yes, it's very pretty. I was wondering if I could have a few strands of it so I can dye it the same color." I would prefer not to, and you can't match this hair color anyways." "Oh no, don't worry, it shouldn't be too hard, and I only want a little bit." She sounds like a Disney villain. "No, you can't, I'm sorry." By now, everyone had finished in the washroom and were ready to leave. As we were about to leave, Karen grabbed my hand. Yes, she actually grabbed my hand and began to reach for my hair. By now, the daughter had ran out of the bathroom, I believe to go find her dad, I think because she didn't like the situation. My mum went into full mother bear mode and swiped her hand away from me and told my older sister to go with auntie and baby cousin to wait outside. According to my mum, she proceeded to yell at Karen for touching me, and that even if she is allowed her to take a chunk of my hair, that there was no scissors allowed in Disney World. The Karen told my mum that she would have just pulled a few hairs, since she was sure that I wouldn't mind. My mum was dumbfounded and decided that she wasn't worth all of this drama. I'm sorry if it's not some huge drama-filled story, but it's pretty funny how stupid Karens can be. People will think that this story is fake, but it's another part of people fetishizing others for being different, and that's another disgusting piece of society, I guess. I don't condone that person's actions at all. I think it's completely disgusting. You don't assault a child and rip out strands of hair just because you want to match a color. Like, my God, as people in Florida that detached from reality? I'm not saying all Floridians are, I'm just saying these Karens are. How do you sleep at night attacking a child like that? My golly gosh. Posted by user Urania615, titled, $7 for a sandwich, I want to see a manager. It finally happened. I witnessed my first Karen. Boyfriend, 30 male, and I, 27 female, went to the local mini-mart to get some pizza dough. Thankfully, there's not much of a line, so get on and wait our turn. Suddenly, we see and hear this lady, henceforth known as Karen, unfortunately does not have the haircut, go off on this poor cashier girl complaining about the sandwich from the deli. I'm guessing she didn't know the price until it was rung up, because we suddenly hear, $7? Are you kidding? My boyfriend and I look at each other like, oh God. I want to see the manager. This is ridiculous. The cashier goes and comes back with the manager within 2 seconds. It's a small store. I gotta give credit, this guy doesn't back down. Karen is complaining about the price of the sandwich, and manager is explaining that the weight of meat in the sandwich equals to the price. She is not having it. Karen says, I can get it for much cheaper at the deli down the street. In my head, I'm like, then why are you here? I'm still gonna buy it, but just look at it. There isn't much meat. I'm sorry you don't like our prices, Karen, but that's how much it is with the weight of the meat, cheese, and spread. But that's far too high. Let me show you the sandwich. Miss, if you open the container, you have to buy it. I'll still pay for it, but I'm never coming here again. Lady proceeds to open the container and show him the contents of the sandwich. There's plenty of meat and cheese, but not worth $7. I don't make the prices. I'm sorry, miss. Manager rolls his eyes and leaves. This lady is now berating this cashier who has nothing to do with the pricing. My first job when I was 17 was a cashier for a supermarket, so I immediately empathized with this girl. There is so much you want to say, but can't because you have to keep that customer service smile in order to get that paycheck. The other cashier calls for me and boyfriend to ring us up. Then I hear this ridiculousness. What happened to the people who used to own this place? They never would have priced it like this. I'm not sure. I was hired after the new ownership took over. Even so, they no longer own this store. I'm gonna make a complaint. This is ridiculous. $7 for a tiny sandwich? Okay, so I've been to this store many, many times. The sandwiches are not big, but there's a decent amount of meat in there, and it depends, that's what she said, and it depends on what kind of sandwich you get. At this point, I've had enough, and so has boyfriend. We don't want to make a scene, and I'm not very good with confrontation. Boyfriend and I pay. The exit is right where Karen and the cashier are. We get to the exit, and just before we leave, I shout, "Bye, Karen!" Karen turns her head up to look at me with bewildered eyes. I walk off. Boyfriend looks at this lady with an annoyed and disapproving look. It may have been a bit cowardly, but I'm still kind of proud of it, especially when I heard one of the cashiers let out a laugh. Boyfriend and I laugh all the way back to the car. I don't know what happened after we left, but from the look at that lady's face, I think she realized just how she looked. Not very dramatic, no cops, no racist rant. Just an entitled lady complaining about a sandwich. Oh, and boyfriend and I made an awesome pizza. If you want cheap food, make it yourself. You're in a supermarket, surrounded by cheap products. What are you doing buying a sandwich in there, you stupid Karen? Go home and make your own sandwich if you want it that badly. Why go off at people? Like, are you that bored? Are you that sad of an individual that you need to yell at people whose responsibility it is not to make a sandwich? Are they really reaching that hard at straws? My God, what has the world become? I am cringing on the inside for this woman. Posted by user 2 Teacups. Titled, Entitled Old Woman Wants Me to Give Her My Seat. I'm on crutches. A little bit of backstory. 2 weeks ago, I, 18 female, fell down the stairs in my house and broke my ankle. Ow! And a couple of bones in my foot. My foot rolled off one stair and landed on the next at a 90-degree angle, and then managed to get caught in the banister a couple tumbles later. All this to say it was very broken. I've been on crutches, and my foot/ankle is in a huge neon green cast since then. I was on the train coming back from a doctor's appointment, unrelated to the foot. My mum dropped me off on her way to work, but obviously wasn't able to drive me back home. The bus I take after the train stops half a block from my house, so I'm able to make it home pretty easily. It was about 4:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, so the train has no empty seats. A kind stranger, KS, had given me the seat closest to the train doors. These seats are typically reserved for the disabled, pregnant, or elderly, and I think me and my leg fit into that category. They have a little sticker above them that shows a pregnant woman, an elderly person, and someone missing a leg. This will be relevant later. The train stopped at the busiest stop on our line, the dreaded mall stop. It's one stop before my station. A couple people clear out, a bunch more push on. Enter Entitled Old Lady. She's 78, and I know that because she yells it a little while later. No obvious mobility issues. For context, the doors opened on the left side of the train. I was sitting on the right side. She power walks over to me, ignoring the priority seating on the left side, and says, "I need that seat. I'm an elderly citizen." I say, "Oh, I'm sorry ma'am, I'm actually on crutches and can't properly stand on the train." My crutches are stood in between my legs, so there's no way she didn't see them. "It doesn't matter. These seats are for the elderly, disabled, and pregnant. You're injured, not disabled, so you need to give the seat to me. I'm sorry, if I broke my frickin' legs, am I not disabled for a while? Stupid. At this point, the train starts up, does a little jolt, which she manages just fine. The KS from earlier, who has a new seat about 5 seats down from me, says, "Ma'am, she needs that seat. Can't you see the crutches and cast? You can have my seat." No, that's fine. This girl is a child and does not need this seat. She can take yours. The train's moving, so I won't be able to safely get down there. Plus, it's too far from the doors, so I won't be able to get up and out when my station comes. I don't want to miss my stop. I'm 78. You're a child. The sign clearly doesn't show kids on crutches. It shows old women. I need that seat. At this point, people all around are listening in and offering their seats. The person 2 seats down gets up and walks away. Old lady keeps yelling that I don't respect my elders and need to move. She moves to grab at my crutches, but is pulled back by KS, who is now standing between me and old lady. Old lady is now yelling at KS for grabbing her. The person from 2 seats down has come back with a transit officer who was checking tickets on the opposite side of the train car. "Oh, thank God, officer, thank God. This child refuses to give up her seat for me, and this man just grabbed me and pushed me across the train. Ma'am, this young lady clearly needs the seat more than you, because you've been standing and yelling for 2 minutes now. I saw you go to grab at her crutches, and KS was simply protecting the young woman. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave at the next stop if you continue harassing them." Older lady dejectedly walks down from the opposite side of the train and death glares everyone else. After another minute, the train stops at my station. I asked the ticket guy if I could leave, and he helped me off the train. I thanked ticket guy, KS, and the woman who went to get TO. Anticlimactic ending, but oh well. I very obviously had the crutches, and was wearing a knee-length dress, so the neon green cast was very visible. I don't get why someone that age does not have the foresight and the years behind them to be like, whoa, I've seen situations that are messed up like this. I'm old enough, I can do it, I can be the bigger person here. Why does your age and ego have to just weigh over this woman who's in a cast? It's obvious that she can't move. Why are you being such an a-hole in this situation, old lady? I would feel bad if this old lady just started beating up that person in the crutches. Like, it happens. It does happen. People lose their tempers or they have mental illnesses. You never know. Lady was lucky she didn't get her foot kicked. Posted by user Sword Taster. Titled, Karen tries to police the internet. This is indeed as weird as it sounds. Apparently I'm not allowed to have an opinion. 2 days ago, 2nd of June, I received in the post, mail to the Americans out there, a letter from my work. A letter with a first-class stamp. A letter that had the words private and confidential written upon it. One does not receive such letters from where I work unless you have done something either very, very right or very, very wrong. As far as I'm aware, I had done neither, so I was unsure to what I owed the privilege of receiving such correspondence. I opened the letter to try and discern its purpose, and what I'd done to receive it. It was a letter telling me I had a disciplinary hearing today, 4th of June, due to a social media comment. What the heck? They merged an exclamation and a question? I've never seen that. I hadn't mentioned anything about my job in literal months. Before Christmas, I think. And they didn't specify in the letter what it was that I said. So I had to wait. I get anxiety bad, and I have a heart condition. I got to deal with not eating properly and chest pains for 2 whole days from the stress of this letter. And since I live with my mother, she also knew. I was allowed to bring her to the meeting with me too, but she's as anxious as me, so she barely slept since the letter arrived. Today at 10 a.m. is when the meeting room took place, I imagine that's supposed to be. We started work at 4 a.m., so I had to survive 6 hours at work with the chest pains and the not knowing. I got there and my manager was absolutely lovely. The comment that got me dragged into the office? I stated that I find a rainbow shirt designed by Harvey Price, disgraced glamour model Katie Price's disabled son, is hideous, and some tramp took offense to this. This entitled petty cow decided to find my profile, check my place of work, and make a complaint to head office in an attempt to get me fired because I hold a different opinion to her. I'm sorry for not bowing and scraping at the feet of Harvey Price, but I'm not going to call his design beautiful just because he's disabled. My manager basically laughed, told me to take my workplace off my profile, and said the words to the effect of, had she complained in our branch instead of to head office, she'd have been laughed out of the building. Fudging Karen. What is it with cancel culture? I can understand where people are coming from when people say disgraceful things online, but when it's something with a small opinion that you don't agree with, ooh, I don't like that. To me, that looks ugly. Oh, I don't like their work. I don't like the shirts. What's wrong with having an opinion? Why do people feel so enraged and entitled? They're like, gonna go after this person's sponsors, gonna go after this person's entire income, shut their life down because I don't agree with this one thing they did. But hey, they did some good stuff on the side, but they made one mistake and shut them down. Stupid cancel culture. I sincerely hope that we can put an end to that and give criminal convictions against these people that make false reports and allegations. I'm serious. That's the only way we shut this down. I believe that a level of entitlement has been allowed to go on for too long, and I think they're not entitled to strike people like that. Tell me what you guys think. My boyfriend feels entitled to control my hair color. Recently, I dyed my hair blue since I don't have to go to work for a while. It's something I've always wanted to do but never had a good opportunity to. My now ex-boyfriend hates dyed hair and would have stopped me if I told him I was dyeing it. When he found out, he demanded I change it back to blonde. I told him how I hated the way I looked as a blonde, and this was something I have been wanting to do for a while. He leaves and comes back a while later with a bottle of blonde hair dye and demanded I change it. I told him that I wasn't going to, and he accuses me of not caring what he thinks. Huh. Weird one, that. After an argument, he hits me across the face and storms out. Now that is just abuse. It's just literal abuse right there, and that is never okay. You've got to wonder why he's now the ex-boyfriend. Posted by user FredZRed, titled, Karen demands her meal for free but gets instant karma instead. This story is about my mother. Yes, she is a mega Karen, and unfortunately, I've had to put up with her most of my life. This happened when I was a teenager, around 15 years old. We went out for dinner at a small local restaurant that did all-you-can-eat buffets. I should mention that my mother has long, thick, and curly hair, and she never ties it up. Important for later. We got our dinner and sat down to eat, and all was going well. I was surprised at how well my mum was doing. By this point, she should have found something to complain about by now. And then it happened. She looked down at her plate and said, "Oh my God, look at this. There's a flippin' hair in my food." Me, knowing exactly what she was doing, says, "Mum, that's your hair." "Ugh, no, that's not my hair." The way she was talking was obviously dramatized for effect, and she was beginning to get louder and drawing attention from other diners. She continued to cause a scene and get more irritating, drawing more attention to herself and, inadvertently, me. I wanted to sink into my chair from embarrassment. Not long after she started her fake tantrum, the waitress comes over to see what the problem was. She says, "How's it all going here? What seems to be the problem?" "Well, there's hair in my food." Okay. Mum getting furious at the lack of care from the waitress. "Well, then what are you going to do about it? We deserve to have our meals for free. This is horrible customer service." The waitress, with a smirk across her face, says, "I'm sorry you're not satisfied with our food. Would you like to speak to the chef?" Mum, looking smug that she thought she won, says, "Yes, I would." I was confused at this point, not understanding why the waitress didn't seem to care, even though I knew my mum was lying, but it soon became clear why. A few minutes later, a man came out from the back of the store and walked right up to our table, and my mum's face went ghost white and her jaw dropped. The chef was bald. Not balding, but so bald that you could see your reflection on his shiny scalp. The chef says, "Hi there, how are things this evening? What seems to be the problem?" "Well, there's a hair in my food." Chef is smiling and says, "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am, but unless I have miraculously grown a full head of hair on my walk over to your table, you can see I am very much bald. And as I am the only chef working tonight, that is clearly not my hair." Mum says nothing. Chef says, "Is that all for now? I need to get back to my work." Without waiting for an answer, he turned and walked back to the kitchen, but not before I mouthed sorry to him as he left. I knew better than to say anything to my mum after this, but I had a smile on my face for the rest of the night. Our next post is by user Scrapin, titled, "Mother expects me to split my stimulus check with my entitled sibling." To preface, I just turned 19 years old and my sibling is 20. I wasn't planning on getting a stimulus check due to the fact that I thought I was considered a dependent due to not having a job and such. So I was just living my life, waiting for when I can get my GED and a job. 2 days ago, my mom was cooking herself dinner, and I walked into the kitchen to get myself something. She asked me if I would be upset if I didn't get all of my stimulus check, and she took some of it to pay for my GED and driver's education courses. I said that I would be a little upset. I wanted to make that decision for myself to feel like a bit of an adult, and that I thought I wasn't even going to get one. Next thing I know, she came back in from her car, angrily handed me my check, and said that I better be responsible with it. Now, call me unreasonable, but that was a little rude. But me being me, I just brushed it off, made myself dinner, and deposited it through my bank's mobile app. Yay! I got my money for important adult things, right? Wrong. It's been 2 days now, and my mother just told me in front of my entitled sibling and dad that I should split my check with my entitled sibling. Now, I like to think I'm a pretty generous person with a big heart. I love helping people out and all, but my entitled sibling is the least responsible person I have ever met. They spend all of their money on weed and knickknacks with no purpose, especially since I need to spend the money on important things that will help me move out of this hellhole. I said no. After this, my mother went to bed. She said goodnight to my father and my entitled sibling, but not me. Purposefully. It was one of the most petty things I've ever witnessed. My entitled sibling has apparently been complaining about not getting a stimulus check and is especially upset that I did. They're calling it unfair. I think it's perfectly fair because I didn't decide the rules for everything. I shouldn't have to shell out $600 to a person that's going to spend it on illegal things, quote unquote. Am I the one being unreasonable? Should I just eat it and give them the $600? Or should I actually stick up for myself for once and spend it on things I need? Any advice would be appreciated. And yes, people, I have covered that one before, but I'm covering it again because, update, mother expects me to split my stimulus check with entitled sibling. So, this is an update for my other post from a few weeks ago. I was going to give my sibling $300, and so were both of my parents, so things would be fair. Now, my parents just told me that they were going to take back their $600 from my entitled sibling and take the $300 from me themselves. I said no, obviously, and now my parents are upset with me. On top of everything, I have my GED testing tomorrow, so I'm already stressed, and now they just dropped this on me. My dad is even trying to strong-arm me out of it by saying, well, rent just went up, among other things. He thinks he deserves the money for raising me. Am I crazy or am I being unreasonable? They all seem to think I'm the one in the wrong. Am I just living with a bunch of crazy people? Edit, by rent just went up, he doesn't actually mean that my rent is going up. I thankfully do not pay rent to my parents. They told me that as long as I'm trying to better myself, I can live here for free. Sorry for the confusion. Didn't each of those parents get their own stimulus checks? Why are they trying to take OP's money? That is absolutely unreasonable. What's the sibling gonna do? These are all questions here. That sibling's not gonna be happy. He's probably gonna react. What a bunch of mental basket cases these people are. Posted by user Nathan5660, titled, "Person took stuff out of my shopping basket. Grrr." So this happened a few weeks ago, but I was wandering around Lidl in a post-depressive state. I wander around without a set goal on what to buy. I find stuff I like and I chuck it in my basket, more as a distraction rather than actual food shopping. I grab some sweets, crisps, and some fizzy pop, and head over to the till, and as usual, there's a big queue, and one dang till open. Ugh, am I right? I get to the back of the queue just as a new till opens. Typical. So go to the newly opened till. I'm third in the queue now, and due to the social distancing sticker things on the floor, I couldn't put my stuff on the conveyor belt. So, this woman starts taking my stuff out of my basket and putting it into her basket. I say, miss, that stuff is mine from my basket. Can you please put it back? She says, it's not yours till you pay for it. So I take my stuff back, move forward, and put my stuff on the conveyor. She starts screeching like a demon that I stole her stuff. I ignore her and stare at the till staff member blank-faced. Till staff says, Miss, please stop shouting. I saw you take the items from his basket. He simply took them back. He took nothing of yours. Why are people like this sometimes? Are they just stupid, or are they just brought up as spoilt brats? I guess I don't know the answer to this one. Posted by user Baron von Lark. Titled, Entitled Tourists Demands We Speak Russian or Else. Hey Reddit, English isn't my first language, so sorry for any misspellings. Any corrections are welcome. A little backstory. I live in an Eastern European country which has been invaded by Russia many times over my country's history, and we still have a large population, about 30% of people who identify themselves as Russians, not my country's nationality. Most of the country speaks Russian as a second language, but the younger generations speak English, and a good percentage of them don't speak Russian at all. I have had many interactions with people who have been living here for decades and still refuse to learn our local language. Tourists, for the most part, are understanding and try to speak English, or very simple Russian to interact. Now to the story. I used to work in a very popular restaurant in the capital. We served local cuisine and a super large selection of local beers on tap, so we were a very popular destination for tourists and locals equally. One day, somewhere between lunch and dinner time, a group of 5 to 6 older Russian ladies came in, were very rude when we greeted them in our usual hello in our language and English, went to seat themselves, and waiter went over to serve them. The waiter speaks perfect Russian, but he had a habit of deciding if he spoke it to a customer or not. I have many stories about this guy and the a-hole he was, and planning on sharing them sometime. And he, seeing the ladies were being rude, acted like he didn't understand a word. We all heard the ladies starting to yell when he gave them menus in English. Only had them in our native language and English, by the way. And saw him standing there, his best server smile on his face as the ladies were yelling profanities. He politely smiled and said, I'll give you a moment to decide. Then continued to go around and telling every staff member to act like we don't speak Russian either. The ladies were speaking amongst themselves about how rude it was the server didn't speak Russian in a country that belongs to Russia. How dare we? This got us all mad, and we continued to just smile and wave whenever the ladies came to speak with us. This escalated to the point that they were yelling profanities in full volume and throwing menus and napkins all over as they were leaving. The server went up to them, acting confused, and asking if there was a problem, to which one of them went close up to him and yelled in his face something amongst the lines of, "Your mothers should have raised all of you better. Not speaking Russian in Russia is a crime. Your boss will hear about this and you will get fired." As they were halfway to the door, the server grinned and said in perfect Russian, "Say hello to the motherland. You old witches, don't you dare to come here again." The look on their faces were priceless. P.S. Nobody got fired. Our boss doesn't speak Russian and doesn't care for ignorant people. Screw the old ladies. Yeah, it's 2020. We ain't standing for that. Our next post is by user Kitty M. Bunny, titled, Discipline Your Unborn Child. Never heard that one before. So another post on here reminded me of this incident from when I was pregnant with my eldest son, who's now 13. So I thought I'd post it here. So when I fell pregnant with my eldest, little me was 5'2", a UK size 6, my hubby is 6'5", aka 2 inches shorter than Darth Vader. So I started getting bigger early on. I didn't even get to my second scan before I looked ready to pop. Seriously, we actually asked them to check that I wasn't having twins. I was wearing a UK size 22 jumper, and there wasn't much room before it would be stretched skin tight. About 15 to 16 weeks, the baby started kicking. Boy did he have a kick on him, because I flinched and my hands went to where he kicked and staff came running out of the offices to check that I was okay. Somehow, when I explained, none of them asked to feel it. I'll never understand why strangers ask, or worse, the ones that just start touching. Some even demand to know where is best to feel baby kick, without knowing you or asking. That's not okay, just in case anyone wasn't sure. Anyway, a couple of them said I probably wouldn't feel it again for ages. If only. My son would be throwing a party in there or something when he'd heard Daddy's voice. He would settle once hubby rested his hand on bump. Sometimes I'd fall asleep, phone on bump, because after the initial excitement at Daddy's voice, it would settle him. I even vividly remembered having to get a few food bits in and walking home, realizing baby hadn't kicked in 20 minutes, and being worried. Because baby would kick a lot, and hard. Remember how crappy phone cameras were back in 2006? I sent my hubby a video message of baby kicking, where you could clearly see bumps popping up and down on baby bump. So one day, at about 5 months pregnant, I'm in the canteen eating my lunch, and got summoned to HR. Now, I knew enough not to go in alone. Our company had recently changed sickness policy. Without changing contracts, that meant if you had more than one illness in a 12-month time period, you faced disciplinary action. If in 3 months you had a quarter or more of the yearly allowance, disciplinary action. First, a 6-month ban, second 12 months. I think third was firing. So either my friend or I would volunteer to be the witness, something HR weren't happy about people having. In fact, they didn't want people knowing they had a right to a witness. So we walk in. My manager, HR staff manager, and HR manager are there. The HR manager would only be there if no one else was available or if it was serious, possibly firing issues. Great. So they explained because of the nature of the complaint they had decided that it needed to be dealt with immediately, which is why they interrupted my break. However, another staff member had made a complaint about my presence in the canteen, and that I had prevented him from eating. I had done no such thing, so obviously tried to explain. I was told not to interrupt again as they didn't want to have to escalate the matter further, especially given your condition. Somehow, at the exact moment that she said condition, the HR manager smelt either fresh dog crap or a pit of eternal stench. No one else did, but this was someone a few years younger than me, and I was only 27, so it's not like me being engaged to my now hubby and not married yet was the problem, right? That would be ridiculous and unprofessional. And I distinctly remember her mentioning this situation had to be dealt with professionally. So, reprimanded and put in my place, I waited to find out how I had stopped someone eating in the canteen, something their complaint had stopped me doing. So we're even, right? Apparently this was a delicate situation that maybe wouldn't be appropriate to discuss in front of a man. Now, besides being sexist, there's no way I'm asking him to leave now. Seriously, he's still a close and good friend. How could I make him wait to find out what I'd done? They explained due to my pregnancy, especially given that it was high risk. Strange, that's only on the medical file the company nurse has, and besides me, her and my midwife, no one else knew. Surely, none of them broke the lock and looked at the file. For anyone wondering, my manager did exactly that. Another story for another day. So they didn't want to cause me unnecessary stress. Then get to the point and in future, don't interrupt my lunch. HR manager says, so, we can't tell you who it was, for confidentiality reasons, and would appreciate neither of you discuss this with each other or anyone else once you leave. But a complaint has been made concerning your condition. There's that stench again. Maybe it's a tic-tac when she says that word. It's been brought to our attention that while attempting to eat his lunch, this co-worker was constantly seeing movement from there, pointing vaguely at Bump. that it was extremely noticeable and not something he wanted to be forced to see. Obviously, our opinions are limited as we can't allow you to eat in a room on your own due to health and safety regulations. So, not because it's stupid. So we felt it best to have you here to make you aware, so you can take action to resolve the issue. I say, to resolve the issue? Someone saw what exactly? What is it that you think I have done? Oh, I knew, but one of them was going to have to say it. The HR manager, clearly ticked off that I'm not playing by her rules, says, obviously he saw your child moving or kicking or whatever. Bless, my friend is trying not to laugh, while also clearly ticked off, and well, the ridiculous situation is getting to be a bit much. I say, so I'm here why exactly? There were empty seats he could have sat elsewhere. Are you seriously suggesting other staff must move because of your actions? My friend says, well, what do you want her to do? Put her unborn baby in timeout? I say, as the one whose kidney is being used as a football, and if feeling all those kicks, I'd appreciate them not being noticeable too. That way I wouldn't feel like a punch bag and could get a full night's sleep. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do, while whoever complained can sit further away or just look away. HR manager says, I'm disappointed that neither of you are taking this seriously. He was the other side of the room and could clearly see. He said it looked like something out of Alien. Look, other than asking my baby not to do it, which is completely pointless at this point, there is nothing I can do. This whole thing is ridiculous. I have absolutely no idea why I'm here. All you had to do was point out that there's nothing I can do about it, while he could stop staring at me from across a room. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to my lunch. Hopefully, it's still edible. HR manager, so you're refusing to do anything? The look on everyone's faces must have finally been enough for her to realize she was being ridiculous. I guess they don't teach them to use common sense wherever she did her HR degree. She did prove why you don't put someone in charge a week after they graduate though. Damn it, baby, do I have to come in there and calm you down myself? I swear to God I will pull you out. Posted by user TreeStar2018, titled, Entitled Mum is mad she can't keep clothes that don't belong to her. Another tale of entitled daycare parents from a daycare director. At the daycare I work at, we currently have a client who would never bring in spare clothes for her child, 5 and female. We would always tell her that her child needed the spare clothes, but Mum would always forget to bring them. Or she's on her cell phone when she picks up and doesn't attempt to listen to what they're trying to tell her. When the child would have accidents, we would put her in spare clothes that belong to the daycare and tell Mum she needs to bring them back. We stopped doing that about a month ago because the mum wouldn't ever bring us our spare clothes back. So we started calling her every time her child had an accident and told her she needed to bring her some clothes for her child to change into. Finally, Mum started bringing in an extra set of clothes because she was tired of us calling her at work. On Friday, when she dropped her child off, we noticed that the child was wearing some of the daycare's spare pants that she has previously been sent home in. We checked the child's cubby, and she had a spare skirt because Mum finally started to listen to us about her needing spare clothes. So I told her teacher to have her change into her skirt, and we washed the pants that belonged to the daycare. When Mum came to pick her up, she asked why she was in different clothes. We told her that the pants were ours, and so we changed her into some of her own. Mum had a royal fit about how unprofessional we are, how we don't care about her child, and that we should never have asked for our pants back. We told her we reminded her several times about us needing our spare clothes back. She told us that she is too busy at night picking up her kid to fully listen to us. We obviously have a lot of spare clothes, and that we didn't really need them back. We told her we have a limited amount of spare clothes, and that is why we kept reminding her she needed to bring them back. She then stormed out and said she would never bring her kid back to us if we were going to make a big fuss over her keeping our spare clothes. It's a shame she forgot she has to give a 2-week notice before removing her child. I'm sure she will just love the tuition owed letter she will be receiving from me this week. What? No, what do you mean I have to bring these clothes back? I can't just steal from you? No, no. Posted by user I like that name, Lord LaserDD. A particularly awful pet situation. Trigger warning, animal abuse / death. Okay. When I was homeless, I was lucky enough to have a friend who let me sleep on his couch for a while. The next door neighbors were just awful people, entitled all to hell and Bible thumpers to the 3rd degree. I was out one morning, having a smoke, and I watched their brats tormenting their dog, a sweet female mutt. The poor thing was tied up to the tree in the backyard, a new development from last time I had seen them. The kids were flicking her with sticks. The dog was curled up in a ball and just taking it. I went over, knocked on the door, and told the father about it, and he lost his crap, rambling about kids being kids, and it's just a dumb dog. I walked away in a huff and went back to the porch. A little bit later, the kids were back out and back up to it, so I filmed it for a bit and screamed at them to knock it off. And here comes Pops again, hooting and hollering about me yelling at his kids. I told him the brats need to be taught a lesson, and I was calling the sheriff about the abuse. The dad stormed off, and while I was on the phone, I saw him walk into their backyard. I didn't have a chance to say anything before he shot the dog. He didn't even have the compassion to make it one shot. No, he had to shoot 2 more times before she stopped screaming. Oh, that is horrific. I booked it back inside at this point and told the operator what had just happened and that I was afraid for my life. A deputy showed up shortly after, and the dad was arrested. Not sure what for. My guess would be discharging a firearm in a residential area. He was yelling and ranting about how he'd rather the dog dead than let someone take her. I have no idea if he was charged with anything. I ended up moving in with my father a week later. What's wrong with people, man? I don't even know if I'm allowed to have that up on the channel. That's a really sensitive topic, but I guess this video will test that. And our last post is by user Von Kittenstein, titled, "Is an in-law still a parent? The story of I Know the Owner." So, a few weeks ago, me and a friend went to a Yay Quarantine is Lifted happy hour together. She apologized, but she said she has to invite her mother-in-law because the woman, entitled parent, had wanted to go to the same restaurant the same day and might have just shown up anyway. We were there for maybe 15 minutes and got our drinks and a basket of bread and placed our orders for appetizers, seated indoors in nice air conditioning. In comes entitled parent. We see her, and my friend, let's call her Emily, waves at her. Entitled parent waves back, but it's still at the hostess stand for a good 10 minutes? A long time when you're sitting there trying to wonder what she's doing while we have a table. The restaurant was for sure busy as hell and had a wait. The poor hostess looked disgruntled. Finally, entitled parent comes over and sits down. They say, I asked for a patio table, and I told her I know the owner, they always take care of me. We were uncomfortable because we hadn't wanted one or to go outside at all, but she didn't ask us, she just went for it. I honestly knew this was going to get worse. 10 or 15 minutes later, she's twisting around and making a show of how she's looking for someone. I always sit at the bar here, I never pay for my drinks, they always buy my drinks for me. I think that's the owner right there with his friends. She points to a group of people standing and laughing. His name is John, I think? The waiter comes over. She complains we still haven't been resat. He says he will check on it. She says, I know the owner. I want a table over by them now. Just pull some chairs. The waiter tried to explain that they're only allowed to seat every other table and there weren't free ones available. She looks indignant and says, I'm going to go over there and ask him myself. Waiter leaves. She starts complaining to us about something or other. Emily had warned me that entitled parent is a bit much. She waves again at a passing waiter that isn't our guy. He comes over. She says, is that the owner over there? Yes, that's him. What's his name again? Mark. So, she jumps up and runs over there and pretends like she knows him with her, oh my god, haven't seen you in forever, so good to see you. She didn't even know his name. We were forced by her to move to a table next to his group, where he didn't once speak to her, but she kept twisting to make eyes at him. Even bought him a shot. He didn't accept it. The bill for the end of the night was $370. Both Emily and entitled parent ordered food to go for their husbands. I had the waiter split my check off of theirs. Entitled parent insisted she pay the rest herself without Emily pitching in. Emily was uncomfortable but got the tip instead. Sounds good, right? Like a generous ending? No. Emily told me a week later that entitled parent emailed the restaurant and threw a fit, saying the bill was wrong and how dare they mischarge her, and it was so unprofessional, and how the three of us couldn't have racked up that much. We were there for 4 hours, and they both ordered premium stuff from the non-happy hour menu. It was 100% accurate. I'm so embarrassed, I never want to ever go anywhere with her again. Entitled woman demands to touch my bump. I'm almost 5 months pregnant, and since my normal clothes were starting to get a bit tight, my boyfriend surprised me with a few newer items, including a top that says, "If you didn't put it in there, don't touch it." I found it hilarious and very appropriate, as we had been talking many times about how annoying are people that just touch your belly when you're pregnant. So, happy as Larry with my new top highlighting my blossoming bump, we headed to the supermarket for our new weekly shop. While there, we got separated briefly, and as luck goes, that's when this woman approached me. She says, "Excuse me?" "Yes, that top you're wearing is very rude and offensive." "Excuse me? How do you think it feels for people who are struggling to conceive? It's only fair that you let them touch your belly to share for a moment what you're feeling. You're very selfish and clearly don't deserve this blessing." I was left speechless. I'm usually hard to intimidate, but ever since I got pregnant, I found myself very prone to tears in confrontational situations. Also, my partner and I have been trying to conceive for 1.5 years before being successful. I remember vividly the pain of seeing other people around me having babies, the heartache every month, and the idea that I could be the source of someone else's pain hurt me deeply. Luckily, my knight in shining armor made his appearance. My boyfriend is a very big, bearded and tattooed guy, so some people can find him intimidating, if not scary. He is the sweetest man, but he's very protective of me, especially now, so he easily loses his temper when it comes to it. He says, "What's going on? Everything alright, darling?" I had tears in my eyes at this point. "Well, your girlfriend's top is very rude and offensive to people who can't have babies. She should share her miracle and let people touch her belly. You clearly don't deserve it. First of all, you don't know us, and how much we've struggled for this baby. Second of all, we're in the middle of an effing pandemic, so you should keep your distance no matter what. And finally, if you feel entitled to anyone's personal space and body, no matter the reason, you can F right off. Now stop harassing my girlfriend before I call security." She looked at him for a second like she was going to reply, then thought better and left. The end. Our next story is by user Ali Vega, titled, "Ex-boyfriend got angry when I cut my hair." Don't know if this is entitlement, but reading stories about people getting bashed for changing their hairstyles made me remember this. I had a boyfriend when I was 17 or 18 who I met on MySpace when that was still a thing. So this was a while ago. He told me many times he liked girls with long hair, and it was one of the things he liked about me. I imagine a lot of you ladies are rolling your eyes into the orbit of the planet right now. I was always the type of person who couldn't decide if I wanted my hair long or short. Eventually, I just cut my hair in the summertime because Florida is hot, and I would feel cooler with shorter hair. So, while we were dating, a particularly hot summer came around, and I decided to cut my hair. It was the year I decided to try an inverted bob. When I told him about it, he was ticked. He scolded me, reminding me how he didn't like girls with short hair, etc. He didn't talk to me for days after. All I could think is it was a stupid reason to be angry, and it's my head, I can do what I want with it. We broke up about a half a year later. He actually demanded back all the gifts he had gotten for me. He didn't get them back. Edit, just want to say that he wasn't a bad guy or bad boyfriend. He did get over the haircut eventually. He was angry about the breakup, and that's why he demanded gifts back. But he's not a bad guy. Posted by user RavenWolfPS2, titled, New Employee Steals Food from Disabled Girl. We have a female client at our day center who, unlike the other members, gets her breakfast prepared for her at the center as well as her packed lunch. She always has supplies, such as tortillas, eggs, cheese, and meat, sitting in the bottom drawer of the fridge to be used daily for her breakfast. The provider who works with her that day will cook up a breakfast burrito for her, and all of the materials are clearly labeled in thick black Sharpie with her name. Since different supplies empty at different rates, and it's difficult to constantly keep inventory of everything that needs to be replaced, the supervisor will often purchase supplies to replenish the ones that have emptied the morning of, and bills the client's mother for them later using receipts. The supervisor also keeps certain things in the office stocked for general use, such as coffee, creamer, and condiments. We'd recently hired a new employee to the center who was experienced, and worked really well with this particular female client. Typically, the supervisor will schedule meetings in a way where they will have a variety of staff members working with them so they don't get too stuck on one particular person and refuse to work with anyone else. After a while, the new employee started asking to work with this female client fairly consistently, and my supervisor had no problem allowing her to do so since they seemed to get along so well, and the new employee didn't work every day. After several months, there was suddenly an increase in how often the supervisor had to go replenish items from this client's stock, and she found it odd that said client was suddenly going through the same amount of food at a much faster pace than before. All of the staff claimed they had seen her eating the same food portions every day for breakfast. Providers started keeping an eye out to see where the food was mysteriously disappearing to. After some investigation, it was discovered that the new employee had been making her own meals from the food provided for this client. Her excuse? She had two. One, she said she didn't have a lot of money and couldn't afford to pay for her own lunch every day, and two, she said that since the supervisor was paying for the food, then it was fine for her to take it. She argued that since the client's mum wasn't directly paying for the food, it didn't belong to her clients, but rather to the center instead, and staff should be allowed to eat it for that reason. She got a write-up and a swift reprimand from the manager, and so far we know she hasn't been stealing the food that belongs to the clients anymore. However, we do have another part-time employee who brings in freezer lunches every now and then, and keeps them in the staff freezer to eat for the day that she will be at the center. It has happened numerous times that these frozen lunches disappear and the part-time employee ends up going hungry because that's all they prepared to eat that day, and they can't afford to get anything else. I've spoken to the troublesome employee since the earlier debacle, and she's still under the belief that the other people owe her food just because she cannot afford to pay for it herself. I constantly see her trying to mooch off of other staff, and even several disabled members who are more cognitive but still lack the wherewithal to say no to her when she asks for part of their lunch. I can't help but think she's the one stealing the frozen lunches from our co-worker. What a sack of trash. Posted by user Doctor Who All the Way, titled, Lady on the bus tried to call the police after she smashed her head on ticket validator. Now, I am riding the bus to everywhere since junior high school. It's a place, moving one, full of entitled people. Get it? Because the bus moving, it's a place. It was a warm summer day, and I was going to the swimming pool. I take a seat next to the window, and next to me sits a lady with a ton of makeup on her face, which is important later. Her seat is right in front of the pole with the ticket validator on it. The ride was peaceful until the bus was close to the pedestrian crossing. Some kid ran across the pedestrian crossing, and the bus driver needed to make a sharp stop to avoid hitting him. I grabbed the handrail in front of me, so I am okay, but the lady makes full face contact with the ticket validator. I say, "Are you okay? Why did you not hold me?" I was so surprised. How can I hold her when the stop was a surprise? She started to threaten me with the police and arrest me for not helping her, and I look at the ticket validator. Then I started to laugh. Lady made an imprint on it with her makeup. She literally made her own Turin shroud. Lady moved to threaten driver for trying to kill her. He just points at a scared kid on the sidewalk and says, He or you? Lady storms out of the bus and I'm still giggling at the imprint. Posted by user BubbyVon23. Titled, Lady ditches cart in line and gets mad at employee when she lets my family go. This is going to be a short story. So, I constantly travel to Kentucky with my family to see my grandparents. Since it's a long ride from New Jersey, we have to take stops at places to use the restroom and get snacks. One time we're at a store, and we just had sushi to check out, and a lady had a giant cart filled to the brim with random things. She was next in the checkout line, and when she just left her cart, I saw her grab another cart and grab more things. When the cashier started checking out our stuff, she came back and started going ballistic. She was screaming that she was next and that she deserved to go. The cashier was trying to say to her that we had less stuff and she had left her place in line. The lady screamed the famous line, "Let me see your manager." The cashier sighed and got her manager. The lady was telling the manager how rude the cashier was for not saving her spot and that she should be fired. She read the manager's name tag and started calling her by name, like they were friends. The manager said that she shouldn't have left her cart and that we could have been done by now if she didn't say anything. After hearing that, she just went behind us and let us check out. I could hear her say things under her breath about how she was never shopping here again, and that's the end of our story. Our next story is by user TPABArrayRays, titled, Entitled Student Tries to Get a Professor Fired Because She Failed His Community College Class. So, a couple years ago, I was taking dual enrollment classes at a community college. My first semester, I took this American government class. I needed it for the high school credit. My professor had the class formatted so the only graded work were 3 tests, each worth a third of the grade, and cover everything from the previous tests until the class before. These tests are divided into 3 parts. The first part was 50 multiple choice questions, filled out on a Scantron. The second part was 30 short answer questions. The third part was 20 hardest short answer questions, but they were for extra credit, so they didn't count against you if you got them wrong or didn't answer. He also offered plenty of extra credit opportunities, like an easy one, prove that you're registered to vote. He gave an alternative if you couldn't legally register. So I got a very easy A in that class, and I'm ready to move on to the next semester after my first semester of college classes complete. I got an A in the other college class, the rest were high school level taken elsewhere. I rather enjoyed the class. Even though I didn't agree with his politics, it was an interesting subject. He wasn't dry with it, and he taught from a somewhat politically neutral point of view, or at least stated both sides. 2 weeks after grades were posted, I get an email from a classmate. I hadn't talked to a soul in that class, besides friendly small talk. It apparently was sent to the whole class. How she got my email, I don't know. She said that he should not teach any more classes because his teaching methods were outdated and his grading was unfair. She also said that numerous people failed his class. She attached a petition that she was going to send to the school office. I don't know which department would be in charge of that, and also asked for people to visit the office to complain and give him a bad review on Rate My Professor. I was not amused, and assumed that this was one of the people who was skipping class or slacking off in the back row. The class made it plenty easy to get an A, and much easier to pass. His teaching methods were fine in my opinion, and I didn't think there was anything he could have done to make it easier to learn. I wrote a lengthy and detailed reply that I may have perhaps hit reply all on, explaining why I will not be participating. I also made sure to give him 5 out of 5, or whatever the top is, on Rate My Professor to try to counter all the bullcrap reviews that were getting ready to come in. I also sent him an email warning him what was going on, which he thanked me for. Edit typo. Edit 2. Thanks for the Yikes Award, Anonymous Redditor. It's my first ever Reddit award. I can't believe how much feedback I've gotten in such a short amount of time. Thank you everyone. So many of you are asking what happens next. I decided to take a look and find out what happened. He actually is still teaching as if nothing happened. I assume nothing came of the petition, so either they didn't get enough signatures, or the dean, or whoever is in charge, knew that it was bullcrap. However, I looked at his Rate My Professor profile. He has a 3 out of 5 with 111 reviews, and 10% would take again. I looked through, and sadly most of the negative reviews were from that semester. There were a couple from this last semester because he apparently was having a bit of difficulty switching the class online, and so the class before a test, which is normally a review, was cancelled, and he still gave the test as scheduled, just online. There's really not much more I can find out because I'm no longer at this community college. I graduated from high school a year ago and went to a 4-year public university. I need to mention that the classes at the 4-year school are much harder than the ones at the community college. If given the chance, I highly recommend dual enrollment. It got some gen eds out of the way. I got high school credits, and I got all as so it boosted my college GPA. Thanks again for reading. Posted by user Enraged Erin. Titled, Bride Refuses to Let Me Leave a Tiny Horse Stall. I know this title is confusing as it is, so allow me to explain this a bit. I was asked by my stepsister to DJ at her wedding, which was located in a barn, yeehaw. The day prior to the wedding, we had spent the entire day decorating the hell out of this barn to her specifications, and I had spent the better part of 3 hours of that day trying to troubleshoot the problems with the speaker set and why the provided phone and playlist wasn't working with the adapter. After finally getting the phone to be compatible, I began testing audio and seeing just how loud the volume had to be to reach the entire barn. This speaker could reach up to volumes of 100, with 25 being loud, but bearable to hear. But I had to pump this speaker up to 87 to be heard across the entire barn. Before leaving for that day, I asked the bride to email me the playlist or give her phone to someone who will arrive at the barn before her, so I can hook up the music. The day of the wedding, I arrived 30 minutes early as discussed, and she did not leave her phone with anyone, or neither did she email me the music. I approached her auntie, who was in charge of keeping things together, and asked what to do. She told me to just sit in the stall and wait for the bride to arrive with the playlist. I should mention now that I was wearing a gothic-style dress, and it was a really humid day, per the bride's request. She wanted me to wear dark colours so as not to draw any attention to me or the booth. I didn't contest this, so I began configuring the speakers to be ready to play the music once she arrived and handed me the phone. As soon as she entered the barn, she lit into me. Why isn't the music playing? I never got the music as a CD or as an email playlist to bring on my phone? Whatever. And she hands me the phone. Just get the music playing and start the Here Comes the Bride music at exactly 4:30. Not a problem. I get the music hooked up and playing the regular playlist for the guests and step out of the stall to get some fresh air. That stall was getting really stuffy, and the reverb in that stall was making my head pound just the first 2 minutes in. As soon as she saw me step out, she made a gesture to her aunt, and her aunt pointed at me. Get back in the booth. Huh? The music is set to loop. I don't need to be in there until 4:30. It's only 4:17. Bride wants you to stay in the booth. Stay in the booth. Okay. I didn't want to start a fight, but I was already feeling like I was being wronged by being forced to stay in a horse stall with the reverb making my head rattle. Not wanting to confront them, I conceded and went back into the booth. If you can imagine being stuck beside a loudspeaker in a movie theater for an extended period of time, that is how bad it was for just 2 minutes. Now, imagine that for roughly another 15 minutes as I was waiting for the cue to start the Here Comes the Bride song that she renamed on her phone. At 4:30, I start the song, and she starts walking down the aisle. Once I start tuning it down for them to start the ceremony, I step out of the stall and watch the ceremony, only to be shoved back into the booth by the aunt and told quite sternly not to leave the stall. So, I sit there, unable to time when to play the Walking Away song until the aunt starts flailing her limbs, which I took as a signal. Once the newlyweds have left the aisle, I shift the playlist back to the waiting list and move to step out, only to be shoved back in again, this time by the bride. She says, "Are you trying to ruin my wedding?" No, I just can't be expected to stay in this booth the entire time. It's my wedding. If I tell you to stay in here, you are staying in here. Look, I don't want to be rude on your special day, but please remember that I'm doing this for free and is a huge inconvenience to me. I have a term paper due by 2 a.m. At any time, I could leave and have somebody else deal with the technical mess that is this DJ booth that smells like horse crap. The bride stormed off, crying, and tried to tell her father, my stepdad, that I was ruining her wedding. He mostly took it with a grain of salt and just continued to mingle with the rest of the guests. About 2 hours passed by, and my mum entered the booth. She says, "Aren't you going to come out and eat?" "I'm not allowed to leave. Bride said so." "What?" She flagged down my stepdad. "You haven't eaten anything, have you? Haven't even been able to use the bathroom." At this point, not only do I have to use the bathroom badly, but I was feeling extremely disoriented from the reverb from the booth for 2 hours, and the heat, as well as not having eaten anything. Stepdad says, "You don't look so good," and Mum says we're going home. Doesn't bride need OP to run the booth until everyone goes home? I set up the music to dance playlist, and unsteadily stand up. I say it's set to loop. If someone wants to fiddle with this, it's their problem. I feel like I'm going to barf. As we're leaving, the bride starts to berate me for leaving the booth again, when my mum and stepdad look at her for a moment and simply said, "We're going home." On the half-hour car ride back to the house, I had passed out and woke up to my mum gently patting my face to wake me up, and her holding some DQ under my nose. After corralling me into the house, we had to check my blood sugar levels. I had dipped into a low blood sugar level, and for the next 2 days, I was barely able to hear anything with how much my ears were ringing. The bride was also whining those 2 days about how unprofessional it was for me to leave the booth looking the way I did. On a plus note, I did submit that term paper in time. Edit. So, a common question is the sister-in-law and stepsister thing. I kinda have a mixed verbiage due to where I was raised. Hick town if that makes sense. But she is my stepsister. Hope that clears it up better. Edit 2. It appears that some people don't understand full background on this situation. That is my fault. I live with my mum and stepdad. It was not my speaker setup they provided to me. They kept handing me the wrong cables from God knows where, in that nightmare of a barn, half of which was shorted out or badly frayed, which I refused to use for safety reasons. I'm not a professional DJ at all. I only told them, get me a loudspeaker, a laptop, and the music playlist either on a CD or a phone, and I'll be able to get this working. I jury-rigged that setup. That's why it took so long to hook up. Me not standing up for myself was my mistake back then, but I haven't let that happen again, especially with that entitled ass of a sibling. Even my stepdad is still disgusted with her behavior that day. Our next post is by user BlusZ, titled, "Friend tries to tell me he wants to spend more time with my girlfriend and that I spend too much time with her. This guy has been a problem from the start, but this was when I finally had enough and went off on him. Let me give context first. Before my girlfriend and I were together, we were just friends, and were friends before our friend, we'll call him ED, entitled dude. He instantly disliked her, and we both knew it. She wasn't ready for a relationship at the time, so wanted to just be friends with him. This is where the trouble started. Girlfriend and entitled dude became good friends, but he wanted something more and noticed that me and my girlfriend, again she wasn't my girlfriend at the time, but I want to refer to her as such anyways, were getting closer and would hang out when it was just the two of us. He made comments before and joked that we were close, which I always thought was weird to bring up out of the blue, but always left it alone because I knew he was just jealous and I didn't want to argue with him. During the summer of the following year, me and my girlfriend got even closer, and in a drunken state one night, girlfriend confessed she liked me so much she wanted to be my girlfriend, and I confessed right back because I liked her a lot too. We were both new to dating a person of the same gender, so we kept it a secret until it was clear what we both wanted. It wasn't long before our friend group found out, and this includes entitled dude. He must have gained some real balls to try and talk to me the way he did that night. The night I finally ended our friendship, I might add. He started off joking about my relationship with girlfriend, but got super aggressive super fast, and I had enough and asked if he had a problem with me and to tell me everything he feels about me. This is how it went. Yeah, I have a problem with you, and so does everyone else, meaning people we barely know and don't consider them to be a part of our friend group. You always hang out with girlfriend, and she never hangs out with us or me, hardly anymore, and that's just not fair. Excuse me? Me and girlfriend hardly know the people you just listed, and why should I have to share my girlfriend with you? Because she's my friend too, and everyone wants her to hang out with her, and all you do is steal her away. First off, no one that we consider real friends gives a flying crap what me and girlfriend do together and how much time we spend together, so get off your high horse with that BS. Secondly, she's my girlfriend. We love to spend a lot of time together. We really do, lol. And thirdly, never ever talk to me like I owe you something or that she owes you something. All you do when you talk to me is try and start crap with me, and I always let it go and give you more chances that maybe you won't start anything with me. But now I'm at my limit. All you've ever done is choose to be mad at me for idiot reasons. And I don't ever do anything to hurt you. I know why you're doing this, because you are jealous she's with me and not you. Well, guess what? That's because she likes me for me, and I'm not sorry for that. I'm not sorry for being myself around her, and that she wanted to hang out with just me. I didn't steal her away from anyone. She wanted it to just be the two of us. I don't blame her either, because I wanted it to just be the two of us too, because I liked her just as much as she liked me before and after we started dating. I am not sorry for loving her and that she loves me. So you can take your sorry excuses of an argument and get the hell out of my and my girlfriend's life right now, because we don't want you as a friend any longer. I should add that we had this argument and that I yelled that last part while all of us were hanging out with our friends, including in front of my girlfriend. I don't usually allow myself to get that mad, because I don't like people seeing me get mad from past anger issue problems, and especially in front of my girlfriend. He tried saying more to me, but was shut down instantly by my girlfriend, and told him to leave. I've told her before of how he's tried to start arguments with me in the past, and she usually told me to go off on him and to not let him talk to me that way that he always did. Well, now she knew why I never went off on him before. I was on the verge of getting physically violent and having a meltdown. Getting angry only brings me pain because it's been hard for me to control it my whole life. So I was struggling after that whole ordeal. She and all our friends had my back and helped me through my rage and calmed me down. None of us talked to Entitled Dude to this day, and it's been 2 years since I last spoke to him. Karen got slapped. Okay, so this only just happened a few hours ago, and I still have a bit of an adrenaline rush, so bear with me. As everyone is bound to know, shopping lately has been a little hectic. The mass crowding has gotten better now that there are limitations on how many people can enter a shop at one point. But everyone is still pretty stressed out and all dolled up in their lovely fashionable face masks. All that being said, there is no excuse for what this woman did. I live in England, and over here, we have a certain big supermarket store with a burgundy and orange themed uniform. So after finally getting through the queue into the store, I grabbed a cart and I was off. I was there for maybe 20 minutes when I rounded the condiments aisle and caught what happened. First, there was a woman, younger looking, maybe teenager, who was wearing an orange jacket, but it looked like one of those bright neon tracksuit ones, not the uniform, crouching down on her knees, looking through whatever was on the lowest level. I do that sometimes. The cheaper stuff tends to be from food companies who can't afford the premium shelf space, and she was wearing AirPods. Next, there was an older woman. Not a Karen in the typical haircut, overweight, overdressed sense, but she did have that face. That, I'm too important to be kept waiting, serve me now, peasant, face. And no mask, standing behind this clearly oblivious girl. I'm wondering why they say no mask, what does that mean? She had to have been trying to get her attention before I even walked into the aisle, and for some reason, the moment I appeared, she snapped. I'll never know what possessed her, but this older lady actually reached down and grabbed the younger by her underarm, yanking her up to face her. The girl reacted as I believe many people would. Without even asking questions, she yelped, spun off-balanced, and clocked Karen right in the face. It was glorious. The woman's nose started bleeding, and the young lady was just standing there in shock. Someone loudly announced they were going to get an employee, while I put myself between the Karen and the young girl, fearing the older woman may try to retaliate. The girl looked dumb with shock. Meanwhile, Karen started screaming. I didn't really catch what she was saying in the haze of it all, but I know a bloke behind me was shouting back at her, telling her she shouldn't have grabbed a girl and that it was her own fault. More screaming, then the employees showed up. From there, it was just a matter of getting everyone's stories. Pretty much everyone who stuck around saw Karen grab the girl first, so Karen had no leg to stand on, though it didn't stop her from demanding the police be called and that she was going to press charges. The police had already been called by a manager, and us witnesses were asked to stay and wait for them. Some couldn't, as they were there with families and such, but I, having nothing better to do, stuck around. At this point, the girl had calmed down and was just kind of standing there silently while the woman continues to scream about pressing charges and suing and you're fired, while the manager just kept on repeating things like, "She doesn't work here, ma'am. Please calm down, ma'am." The police questioning was actually pretty fast, if boring. Not at all as interesting as it is in the movies. I didn't get to see a grand parade of Karen being dragged away in cuffs, sadly. Once all the statements had been taken, both women were escorted outside by police, and that was pretty much the end of it for me. I did still see them in the parking lot speaking to different officers, but couldn't get close enough to hear anything that went down. I made sure the police and the store had my number, just in case. Finished my shopping, and then went home. It's been a few hours. It was surreal, and I'm actually kind of hoping it ends up on YouTube in the next few days. So there's my story. Hope it entertained. Our next post is by user 5 meters per second, titled, "Get off your damn chair and help." Hey guys, I'm currently working for a third-party vendor for one of the most well-known retail stores in the US, hint, Blue Vest era. My priority is selling mobile data plans and mobile accessories. In other words, I'm the phone person. This also means that while I work at the electronics counter in the store of Blue Vests, I don't actually work for them. This, of course, also means that there are certain tasks I'm not supposed to do, including ringing up people that aren't purchasing any mobile accessories. There are sometimes exceptions, like when the rest of the electronics associates are swamped because of understaffing. While I do try to help out when they're super busy, the point is that I'm not supposed to too often. One afternoon, when I was adding some inventory to the system, one of the associates asked if I could ring up the lady, who is now Karen, who was buying iPhone screen protectors. He was the only associate working at the time, and there was a mini line of 5 people. He wanted to help the next customer while I ring Karen up. One thing I forgot to mention is that I have my own little area at the electronics counter. There, I have my own little seat and computer that many customers have mistaken as a cash register. It's understandable since there's also a card reader there. Not much happened while I was checking her items out. It was just like any normal transaction at the cash register. She thanks me and I tell her to have a good day. Afterward, I go back to my seat to complete the inventory. About 10 minutes later, while I'm still sitting at my computer, it happens. Karen taps her nails on my counter. I look at her smiling and I say, "Yeah," and she shoves her pointed finger in my face. You need to get off your damn chair and help everyone that's in line right now." I'm immediately annoyed and I say, "Excuse me? We have all been waiting in line and you've just been sitting here doing nothing. It's not fair." The other associate cuts in and says, "Ma'am, she actually isn't a Walmart associate and is actually supposed to strictly be in charge of phones." Karen, surprised that he came to my defense, says, "Oh, I was just trying to help you. Yes, I understand, but if you could just wait in line, I will be able to assist you soon." "Oh, okay, I see. You see, I thought I saw her. Yes, I understand." Then the Karen left without apologizing, of course. Just kind of waddled off. The other associate and I just shared a look of, what the hell was that? Karen didn't even go back in line. In fact, she wasn't in line in the first place. I'd already helped her and she left, and for some reason felt the need to come back and yell at me. But yeah, so that's my little I don't work here story. I have a couple more, but this is the first one that came to mind. Hope you enjoyed. Oh, and I treated that associate to Starbucks. Posted by user Blow Pink, titled, Idontworkherelady Success. I usually try to avoid employees at grocery stores. They're busy with their jobs and whatever my needs are can wait. If I can't find something, I'll search the entire store before I dare ask someone where something is. Very relatable. Or peek around at other people's carts and ask them kindly, "Oh, where'd you find that?" People are usually willing to help if it doesn't inconvenience them. This day, my mother sent me to the store to get steaks. Nothing else as she already went shopping, but she wasn't happy with the steak selection at that store. Steaks are an unknown world to me. I don't know what I'm looking for. If I got the wrong one for my mother, I knew I'd be hearing about it for a week. Looking at this wall of meat was overwhelming, so I see a couple, they look to be in their 30s, picking out a few steaks. I kindly asked them, "Sorry, I know you don't work here. Do you know anything about steak? I'm supposed to pick some up for the family, but I don't know what I'm looking for." The husband rolled his eyes and laughed and said, ask her." And the wife busted out laughing. "I'm actually a chef downtown. Of course I can help you." Yo, I learned so much about steaks in the 5 minutes we talked. She asked me how I plan to cook it. On the grill. How many people I'm feeding? 3. Do I plan to marinate? Yes. For how long? Up to an hour. She picked out the best cuts of New York strip for me, took me down to the spice aisle and told me how to make a marinade, how high to set the grill, how to time it perfectly, told me how to rotate it 45 degrees twice, edits on one side each. I went home and made the best steak dinner for my family. They were so impressed. Now I'm in charge of grilling steaks for family occasions like Easter, Memorial Day, Dad's birthday, and so on. Thank you so much for the kind lady who didn't work there. You have no idea how much your attention impacted my life that day. I'm forever grateful. She puts a big edit down here, and if it fits into a comment, I'll pin it down below. It's the recipe for how they did this Montreal steak. Posted by user Sir Smokes the Joker, titled, Lighthearted I Don't Work Here Guy. This interaction was friendly and involved a guy. Cast, Hungry Guy, and Me is Me. So, I'm on break, essential worker, and I walk to this drive-in burger place right next to my work. I'm reading the menu, and HG and his friend get out of the car and look for where to get in line. Conversation ensues. "Hey, do you know if they take credit cards here?" I shrug my shoulder and say, "Dunno, I don't work here, my guy." "Oh, gotcha." And he laughs at himself for being a silly human. I can see where he's coming from because both my workplace and the drive-in employees both wear red shirts, but I had my yellow vest, hat branded with company logo on, same thing with mask and polo shirt, and my name tag as well. Posted by user Michelle Bites, hope she doesn't, titled, Karen Needs Her Very Own Checkout Lane. This happened several years ago. I was shopping at Garden Ridge, which sold household items, decor items, gifts, and craft supplies. It was a huge store with 2 entrances and 2 sets of checkout lanes, 1 set at each entrance. I was casually shopping when a round woman in her 50s or 60s got right in front of my cart. She glared at me, and I tried to go around her, but stopped me again, saying, "You gonna help me or not?" I said, "What?" "I need a register opened so I can check out." I looked at her, astounded. I said, "I don't work here, but there are registers open at the other entrance." To which she replied, "I don't want to walk to those registers. Now open one and check me out." I looked her in the eye and said sternly, "I don't work here." She threw her hands up in the air and started to walk away. As she was walking away, she turned and yelled at me, "This isn't over." I ignored her. I grabbed the last couple of items that I needed and headed over to the registers/checkout. I noticed the line was not moving, and I could hear that awful woman's voice. She was arguing with the cashier. The cashier called a manager. Other people waiting in line were getting impatient, and it was showing. The manager arrived and instructed the cashier to open another register so that the rest of us, the sane people, could check out. "How come you open a register for them but not for me?" the awful woman yelled at the manager. He replied, "Ma'am, You're at an open register now. What can I help you with? I wanted a register opened at the other door, and one of your workers refused to do it. She kept babbling nonsense. I raised my hand and got the manager's attention. The awful woman looked over at me at the same time that the manager did. It was her. She wouldn't open a register for me. Then she lied and said she didn't work here, shouted the awful woman. Ma'am, she doesn't work here, the manager said. Are you going to help me out or not? She yelled. I'm trying to help you, ma'am, but you haven't asked for something that I can help you with. If you want to check out, then I'll check you out. The awful woman huffed and puffed and started angrily putting her items on the counter. I was nearly done paying for my items at the other checkout lane when she was done paying for hers. The manager handed her the receipt and told her to have a nice day. As the awful woman was walking towards the door, she paused and shouted, I guess customer service is dead here. The manager shouted back, Ma'am, you can call corporate and get that out of your system. I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me or my staff. Oh, I'm definitely calling corporate, and I'm telling them everything that happened here today, she yelled. I was walking past her and said to her, I'm sure that will be rich. Tell them you need to have your own personal checkout lane while you're at it. She looked at me, red-faced and shaking, and yelled, I plan on it, then took off following the sidewalk around the building. As I walked to my car, I was still in shock that someone can be so awful. Posted by user Pale Credit, titled, Oh, are you using that? Height of pandemic, I needed to get some groceries for myself and dog. I live in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood and shop at the local market. I'm looking for a shopping basket and finally find one. Pick it up, and am about to begin shopping when this middle-aged white dude comes up to me and says, Oh yes, I need that. I'm Hispanic and Asian, so you can guess from there that he assumed I worked there. He proceeds to walk towards me, hands open, expecting me to give it to him. I give him the what the hell look, and he quickly responds, Oh, are you using that? I walk away, still with the WTF face, and see him turning as red as my basket. Posted by user K then Reddit, titled, Whistling at me is not the way to go. This just happened 1 hour ago. I'm wearing a white hoodie, black pants and Nike trainers, as well as clearly visible headphones and a snapback hat. In no way do I look like I work. Well, anywhere really. So I'm essentially having one of those days. I hate everyone and everything and just want to be left alone. However, I had to do a little bit of shopping, so I went down to my local supermarket to pick up a few items. Bit of food, drinks, etc., walking around with my cart, headphones on, listening to old rock songs like Linkin Park, 3 Days Grace, that kind of thing. Just going about my day. When my phone rings, which cuts my music off, so I answer the phone and take my headphones out, just so I don't end up shouting inside a busy supermarket like a crazy person when a soft, excuse me, gets said. So I push the cart and myself a few steps forward, still talking on the phone. Excuse me? A little louder this time. I quickly glance back and move to the opposite side of the aisle, completely out of the way. I said, excuse me, now answer me and help me. This woman bellowed. I looked at the lady and showed her my phone and said, I don't work here, go bother someone else. She just stands there, tapping her foot, looking at her watch. I look at her, shaking my head, clearly getting annoyed with her constantly tapping her foot and sighing, mumbling under her breath. I lower my phone and ask her, can you please leave me alone? I just said I don't work here. She just shakes her head, looks back at her watch, then whistles at me like a dog, holding her arms out to her side. Are you done yet? I need you to help me. I just ignore her. Then she whistles again. So I lashed out. Listen here, love. I'm not a fudging dog, so don't whistle at me like one. She looks at me in shock and horror, then slaps my phone out of my hand and walks off. I shake my head as she goes away, picking up my phone, and then yell at her, excuse me, and whistle at her as she turns the corner. I had a good laugh with my friend on the other end of the phone after that. It cheered me up and has currently got me through the last hour of my day so far, and will keep me going. Also, upon remembering my last two stories, I realize my phone seems to attract crazy people and tends to get hit out of my hand a lot. Posted by user Morsimanen, titled, Visiting a Restaurant When Literally Everything Went Down the Drain. I made a post in the Idontworkherelady where I was surprised by the owner of a restaurant that were very much appreciated by the readers, so I thought I would type up another thing happening in the said restaurant, this time in this sub. This story, however, is quite different from what you usually read in here. This happened 10 years ago in the winter. Me and my friend went to a restaurant to grab some food and a few beers. We got our beers and started with the appetizers, and my friend, the owner, sat down at the table to have a chat. It had been really cold for a long time, and most people stayed home because of it, and the restaurant wasn't actually crowded. The layout of the restaurant is kitchen and bar in one end and two large rooms for the table. The rooms are separated by a wall with openings at each end for the waiters to go their rounds. There were a few guests in each room, so like I said, it wasn't crowded. Suddenly, it started dripping water from the ceiling in the other room. Not much, but only a few drops, and they hit a woman in the head. We are quite relaxed in my country, so she simply moved away from the dripping and over to another table. It was cold outside, so it might just be condensation. After a few minutes, it became very clear that that wasn't the issue. We heard a bang, and the pipe for the sprinkler system broke. The water in it had frozen. Water started to flow, and the tables they were sitting on was hit directly. The sprinkler system had quite a high pressure to it, and the water kept gushing out, and everyone at that table was getting soaking wet. The guests jumped out of their chairs and to a dry place before they left and went home. The owner and waiters ran around like headless chickens and didn't know what to do. It was complete chaos. My friend that I was with ran, after asking the owner where the water valves were, downstairs and into the valve room where he turned the water off while I was calling the fire department. They asked me a bunch of questions and I answered the best I could. I explained to them that I don't work here, but somebody needed to take charge of the situation. I was simply a guest. All the guests went, of course, home. Nobody sued anyone, as that's not something we usually do here when accidents happen. Me and my friend sat back down at our table and finished our food and beers while the fire department sucked all the water up and did damage control. The owner came and sat down with us again, and we talked about what he needed to do if it should happen again. Our food and beers were of course comped by the owner. Sorry for the lack of Karens. Edit. We just did what we had to do to save our favorite restaurant, as the boss himself, our friend, was panicking. After all, we wanted to visit him and the place again, as we get good food, good service, and huge discounts every time we enter there. I wonder why we get the discounts. Posted by user Cryatuns, titled, I am just 13. I want to apologize for my English. I know it's not the best, but I'm still learning. This story passed 3 years ago. I was going with my mother to the supermarket, and I was doing my things, just walking around and watching the products, when my mum told me to go find insert generic brand of ice cream. So I began to walk around when this girl came up to me and said, "Excuse me, where do I find sandals?" Huh? I don't know. I was asking myself if this place was selling sandals in the first place. Why don't you know? You work here. It's not even a big place. You stupid or something. Me, questioning if this girl didn't know what the workers wear, or like the uniform they wear, say, no, you should ask a person that does work here. The girl growled, "Grr, you work here. You look like the type of person that will work in a supermarket." Oh, okay. I was 13 years old at this point, but I've always been a tall person. When people get confused about my age, I just told them that I'm not that old. A 13-year-old girl will work in a supermarket? The girl shut up and just got away growling. I got all the ice cream that I want after I told my mother. Posted by user Mary Rose Tudor, titled, I haven't worked there in 15 years. This is my sister's story, not mine. Backstory. Way back in the day, my sister worked at a drive-in restaurant named after a blue hedgehog. She worked there her senior year from 2004 to 2005. I was a small thing during this time, but it doesn't have anything to do with the story that happens so many years later. My sister is now a teacher at a local high school. Like I said, my sister is a teacher. It was December when this happened. She was getting ready for finals and also getting stressed at the same time. My sister called me up and asked if I wanted to go to the mall that weekend. That weekend rolls around and we go to the mall. We stay at the mall for a couple of hours. It was around lunchtime and we stopped in the food court and got some Chinese food. My sister's phone rang, she answered it, and the conversation went like this. Keep in mind, it was only sided. I guess it's one-sided they mean. Hello? What? No, I think you have the wrong number. Yes? Yeah, I am sister's name, but no, I cannot come. Why not? Well, it's one Saturday and I'm a teacher. Look, I don't know how you got this number, but I don't work here. Don't call me again. I looked at my sister as she hung up and asked what that was about. Said, what's that about? Oh, that was restaurant name, the one I used to work at in high school. Definitely not Sonic. They called saying that I was on the schedule. Me, trying not to laugh, says, why the hell would your name be on the schedule? You haven't been there since I was 8. We're 10 years apart. She got the job there when I was 7 and left when I was turning 8. I know, right? We continue with our lunch without further interruption. Later that week, my sister had contacted the manager of the restaurant she used to work at. Since the time she had been there, the restaurant had changed managers several times. She called the manager up and the conversation went like this, from what she told me. Hi, I'd like to speak to the manager, please. The manager comes to the phone. This is the manager. Is there a problem? Yeah. I was wondering why you still had my information from over 15 years ago. Excuse me? Well, you called me on Saturday, remember? Saying I had to come in? Look, I just wanted to tell you that information is no longer valid. I'm 32 years old. I don't live in hometown anymore. I haven't lived there since I was 18. I'm a teacher. I want you to throw that information out, okay? Well, your name is sister's name, right? Look, I have your information right here. Sister, beyond done with the manager. Sir, I'm trying to be nice. Look at the address. This is not my home address. I haven't lived there until since I was 20. My home address is, and gives her home address. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I have your information right here. If you don't come in, I'm gonna fire you. This has been going on long enough. I don't care. Just get rid of my information. She hung up after that. My sister didn't hear back from the manager for about a few weeks, and when he did, he told her that he was sorry and there was a huge mix-up. When my sister left the Sonic restaurant in 2005, they were switching over to computers for their record keeping, and somehow her information was never deleted and was kept in the computer for a good decade. We didn't know how her information came again after so many years. He just assumed that she was the new girl who he hired, who had a similar last name to hers, was hired, but only showed up a couple of times to work. After that, she never heard anything from that manager, but she said she got war flashbacks from her time at the restaurant name, definitely not Sonic, and vowed to never go back there again. You guys got any good stories from a restaurant name that you worked at? Please do tell me in the comments. Hubby was a Karen. We went shopping last week, and since we were wearing masks, I think my hubby was a little bewildered when this happened. So we start our shop and I have the trolley since I want to get in and get out. I lost hubby for a while, and after a few minutes, I hear a commotion in the aisle behind me, and being nosy, I went to look. There is my husband having words with a strange lady about something in the trolley. I walk over, trying to find out what the matter is. Keep in mind that we're all wearing masks. I hear my husband telling this total stranger, will you please stop buying X brand food because you know I only eat Y brand? And the lady's like, but I like this and you eat it all the time. So I walk over to my husband and ask him why is he bothering this lady. I think then both of them realized they were fighting with the wrong spouse. Her hubby eventually found her and was so happy she bought Y brand for him. My husband now makes me wear a mask that has my name on it, gifted by my aunt, when we go any place together. That's hilarious. I love that. My eyes widened when I saw that one, that they were fighting with the wrong spouse. That would be so embarrassing. Oh my god. I would die. Posted by user Loken89, titled, I don't care if you can't find who you're looking for. This man is literally dying. Get the hell out. So, a weird thing that happened the other day that I'm still amazed at. I'm a vigil volunteer at the local hospice centre. For those that don't know, a hospice centre is where elderly people with medical issues go to live out their days. Sort of like a nursing home, but more medically oriented. And a vigil volunteer is a volunteer there that gets called in to comfort the elderly and their families when the doctors can tell that the patient is in their final days of life. Basically, there's a group of us who take turns in shifts as we're able to, so that the patient isn't alone during this time, or to help the family with any questions they have, or just to comfort them as well. They don't make for great places to volunteer, but it is extremely rewarding for those that don't mind, or at least are more comfortable around death. I don't think I'll ever be comfortable around death personally, and I don't blame a lot of people that aren't. This particular day, I had just gotten off a 13-hour work shift, and got the call to see if I could volunteer, and I won't lie, at first I said no. The coordinator told me that the man was a Vietnam veteran though, and being a veteran myself, I decided to suck it up and go in anyway. Veterans tend to help their own when they're able. So I go in, relieve the woman who had been watching him, and we start talking, and learn we were both in the same MOS, job, during our time in service, and start to share war stories and other life experiences. Just basically sharing our lives with each other, which is honestly about 90% of the job. After a few hours, I guess it was probably 7 to 8 PM at this time, a family is being extremely loud in the hallway, to the point that he can't hear me speak, so I closed the door. I guess that the lady of the family sees the door close and came over and threw the door open so hard that it slammed against the wall. We both stare at her, and before I can say anything, she starts yelling at me. Excuse me, I can't find family member. I don't remember who she said. So you need to get up and help me, now. Me, calmly, at first, because it's somewhat reasonable that she thinks that I'd work here, because I wore khakis and a button-down shirt, and I also remembered what some Redditors thought of my last I don't work here lady situation, and I'll read that next. Ma'am, I can't help you find anyone. You need to find a nurse for that. I also need you to keep your voice down as this is a medical facility and you're probably disturbing other patients. She's like, I don't care if I'm disturbing anyone. I need to find my family member and you and the rest of the staff are useless. Okay, I'll give her credit here. There are a few useless nursing assistants that like to hide instead of answering lights and helping patients known for giving them trouble. But on the whole, it's actually a pretty good place. Ma'am, I understand you're frustrated, but unless they've moved your family member, just go to their last room. I'm sure they're still there since patients have been able to move rooms or even able to get out of their rooms at the same time because of the pandemic. Don't you think I've tried that? They're not where they were last year. You haven't visited them in a year? Well hell, they probably took you off the visitors list. I sure as hell would if I was them. I'd take your ass off my will too. Gotta love elderly veterans, lol. They don't give a frick. If you haven't noticed, we're trying to have a conversation, so I need you to get your loud ass out of my room. Unknown to me or entitled lady, he hit the button for the light above the door, signaling a nurse that he needs help at this point. She says, just because you're old doesn't mean you can talk to me like that. I don't give a damn if you're dying or have no Me and the war veteran at the same time, and cutting entitled lady off says, well, that's good because he, VVI, will probably be dead by this time tomorrow. At this point, the charge nurse, aka head of the hospice at this time, walked up and heard us say this, and was, understandably, immediately mad at me for bringing this up in that way, and stormed past entitled lady and into the room, immediately spinning on me. What do you think you're doing? Trying to get this entitled tramp to leave? Yeah, I was mad and cursing at this point. Nurse looks like she's about to say something, but Vietnam veteran cut in and says, this woman is trying to get him to leave me alone so he can do God knows what for her, and told me she doesn't care if I live or die. So, maybe not her exact words, but I'm not gonna blame a then soon to be, and now actually is, dead man for embellishing a little to get some problem lady out of his room during his final hours. Nurse, turning to Karen, says, "Ma'am, is this true? I'm gonna need you to get back to the front desk and wait for a nurse to help you. We've been here for 10 minutes already with no help. I am not waiting any longer." Well, we try to have the front desk staffed 24/7, but with the virus, we're understaffed, and sometimes the nurses have to leave to help out a patient or another nurse. Since there's no one there, let's go back to the front desk and see if I can help you. No, you can help me now. I demand to know where the family member is right this second. Nurse, her face immediately going cold, says, "Family member died 8 months ago and was cremated soon after because her family would not return our calls. You can check the morgue for her ashes, but I doubt they've saved them for this long." Entitled Lady looked shocked at this news, and honestly, I think what a horrible person to her family member she may have been kicked in at this point, and I think she may have possibly started to cry. I'm not sure, but she definitely went quiet and walked back to her family, with the charge nurse apologizing to the Vietnam veteran and following her down the hallway. I don't know what happened to them after that, and honestly, I didn't care enough to find out. I just couldn't believe that person's actions. I do feel a little sorry for the family since I don't know the reasons there was such a long time span between visits. But no matter the reason, it doesn't excuse walking into a dying man's room and causing a scene, making him yell at you. Seriously, who does that? I agree, that Karen is disgusting. Who comes in and yells at someone dying in hospice care? You're in hospice care. For God's sake, respect people dying. I've known people that worked in hospice care and it's not a lovely place to be in at the best of times. She deserves to be kicked out and banned from that place, even if she has no more reason to come there in the future. Like, I want some justice against this stupid Karen. And the next post is by that same OP from 5 months ago, titled, "Well, that escalated quickly." So I recently learned of this sub through r/ and Storytime on YouTube, and a recent dog adoption post made me want to share my hellish experience from last week. So, a bit of backstory. I'm a veteran who suffers from major depression and PTSD. Because of this, my psychologist, I don't know, I get them confused. The therapy one, not the medicine one, suggested getting a service animal and said she'd write a letter to make it an ESA until it was certified. Luckily, a friend of my mum's was giving away 3 great Pyrenees/Catahoula mixed puppies, which was perfect for me as I herd and haul cattle for work, and both breeds are herding dogs and very intelligent, happy, and lovable, so she'd be able to help me at work and with my PTSD. The characters are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll mention that Sadie is my pup, the goodest, clumsiest pup that ever pupped. Normally, my company lets me bring Sadie with me, and she'll ride in my truck or hang out in the shop with our mechanic's dog. But my girlfriend usually spends Friday to Sunday at my place, and Sadie latched onto my girlfriend immediately when they met, and they were both cuddled up asleep and looked too cute to wake. So I left Sadie with her for the day, knowing she won't mind as she has a Great Dane and loves big puppies. After work, I called my girlfriend to let her know that I was heading home. She said she was taking care of the horses. Yes, she's a horse girl, but not that kind. And she had Sadie with her, but she was just finishing up. Knowing that neither of us would want to get out again after getting home, I asked her if she wanted to meet me at the pet store to grab a service dog in training vest, because trying to train her in public is pretty hard, as everyone, very understandably, goes crazy for her on sight and has to pet her, and I figured that this vest would at least deter the sane crowd. So, fast forward to us in the large chain pet store. There's only like 2, so 50-50 chance you think of it immediately, letting her choose a few toys and finally coming up on collars and harnesses section that we've been looking for. Cue me fitting her for different harnesses, leashes, and yes, Christmas sweaters as well. I'm starting to put up everything I had pulled out while joking with my girlfriend, and when I get a hard tap on my shoulder by someone with very long nails. I turn to see what I instinctively know is a very entitled woman. She was mid to late 40s, long bleach blonde hair in a ponytail, jeans that may have fit 20 years ago, although in her defense she wasn't overweight, but the jeans were just way too tight, and a button-down western shirt. Thankfully, with an undershirt just in case the poor buttons lose their never-ending battle with her obviously artificially altered bust line. Now, this is the type of woman I refer to as a Texan soccer mum, but for this story, I'll call her Karen. Karen, as soon as I start turning, says, "It's about time. I've been waiting here for at least 5 minutes while you attempt to flirt with this poor woman." Now, girlfriend hates confrontation and avoids it at all costs, but me, well, I see it as a way to joke, annoy, or just let my inner a-hole shine through. Girlfriend knows this, and as we share a look, she rolls her eyes at my smile and walks off with the pup to browse the next aisle. Karen, again annoyed, says, "Really? You're just gonna ignore me?" "I'm sorry about that, ma'am. What do you need?" Honestly, she was already annoying me with her rudeness, but that is no reason to be an a-hole. Yet. She says, "I need to know where something is." I wasn't really paying attention at this point. I was already deciding to have a laugh, sending her on a wild goose chase. "Oh, sure thing, ma'am. Go to the end of this aisle, down 3, make a left, then a right at the next, and it'll be at the top halfway down." Or something like that, I don't remember, as I was just saying random things. With that, Karen takes off on her quest to find her magic somethings, and I walked to meet back up with my girlfriend, who was now in line for the one open register in the store. Not complaining, it was moving fast, I'm just setting the scene. "Wow, that was fast." Me, a bit proud and with a big smile, say, "Oh, she just needed to know where something was, it's all good." Girlfriend, knowing me well enough to not believe that I'd help someone that was being that rude, says, "Really? That's it? Did you help her?" I say, "Yep, I was a bit rude back though." Karen, immediately after, almost cutting into my sentence with whom I assume is the manager, says, "That's him right there. And he's still harassing this poor woman too. I want him fired right now. He gave me wrong directions to aisles that don't even exist just to get rid of me to flirt with this woman more." Me to my girlfriend, who was visibly annoyed with me, says, "What? Giving her wrong directions is a type of rude." Now, Karen coming up with the manager just made me smile more, which of course annoyed my girlfriend more. But I couldn't help it, this was too funny. Store manager says to Karen, "Ma'am, I've never seen him before, he doesn't work here." And to my girlfriend, "Ma'am, is this man bothering you?" "Yes, but no more than usual," with a big smile on her face, thinking she was funny. "Then why do you smell like an animal?" "Ma'am, that's obviously a cow smell, we don't sell cattle." Karen, giving up on the manager and turning to me, says, "You don't work here? Why didn't you just tell me?" "Why didn't you just ask?" "That's no excuse to not tell me. It would have taken a lot less time." "Yes, but it wouldn't have been as fun. Hopefully next time you speak to a worker or a stranger, you won't be so rude." Karen, screeching at this point, "Where do you work? I'll call the manager there to complain about you. And she even admitted that you usually bother her, so I'll tell him about your stalking too." Okay. At this point, we were next in line, and I didn't have any plans on staying to argue. But what she just said made me laugh right in front of her. "Lady, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but let me tell you some things. 1. I don't, nor have I ever, worked customer service. My boss could care less that I was an a-hole to some menopausal old woman. 2. Don't be rude to people. No matter their job, they deserve respect. And 3. What is your obsession with me flirting with my girlfriend? I got news for you, buddy. Even if I was single, I wouldn't be flirting with you, but I'd be happy to help you find someone more age-appropriate. You're what, 55? Yes, I know, it was a bit of a low blow since she was obviously sensitive about her age, but at this point, she'd made it personal, and I was ticked that she would accuse me of stalking when she didn't even know my name. My girlfriend was doing her best to ignore us and pay so we could leave. And luckily, after I said this, she had her receipt in hand, and we turned to leave. Karen, eyes wide and mouth agape, of course, started screaming profanities once she saw us starting to leave. She followed us out to the parking lot, basket and all, she's a basket case that one, with the manager following her, since she hadn't paid for anything yet. My girlfriend was starting to visibly shake, as she really doesn't handle confrontation well. So I got in her car and then loaded the bags in the trunk. The entire time Karen was screaming, mostly incoherently, following me around the car while blocking me from backing out by putting her basket behind my car. At this point, a few things happened at once. First, I got in the driver's seat and started to swing my door shut. Second, Karen tried to stop me from closing the door by grabbing it. Third, she fails to stop door and it closes. Her hand was still on it. Fourth, she screams like a rabbit being attacked by a ferret. Long story there. Fifth, I open the door so she could get her hand out. She immediately yanks it away and then did the one thing that I never expected. After getting her hand crushed in the door, this idiot tries to stop me from closing the door again, with her knee this time. What the hell? She's definitely got determination, I'll give her that. Of course, it didn't close all the way this time, but I was ticked and slammed it, so it closed hard and fast and was probably still pretty painful. Now I'm laughing again, not at her getting hurt, but because as I looked back to tell the manager, she may need help. Back to the store, I saw him, already halfway back to the store with her basket. The entire situation was just so unbelievably absurd. At this point, my girlfriend was crying and holding Sadie really tight, so shut my door, made sure no body parts were in it this time, and backed out, careful not to run over Karen, although admittedly at this point it'd be a lie to say I wasn't tempted. It's been a week now, and while I expected to get a summons of a letter from a lawyer or something, nothing has happened. And that's fine because I don't think that you can get in trouble for hurting someone or they try to restrain you from leaving. I should also say that no, I don't particularly feel bad about anything that happened to Karen, but I feel horrible for putting my girlfriend in this situation and apologized at least 100 times this week. We're good, but I gotta be on my best behavior in public for a while. And I don't blame him. That is a shenanigan mess, deliberation, whatever you want to call it. That is a messy, messy situation. And I'm glad that it ended amicably. Not so much for Karen. She didn't get the good end of the stick on this one. That really sucks. And I hope that her hand is feeling better. Posted by user Borbster1, titled X City Power Company. When I was a kid, we lived in X City. Their power company's phone number was just one number off of ours. This was back in the early 1980s, so at the time you would only dial the 7-digit phone number. In my city, there were only 2 sequences for the first 3 numbers. It was either 431 or 434. Changed it for here. So our phone number, again changed for privacy, was 431-1234. And the power company's was 434-1234. Every single time there was a power outage, we would get at least 3 calls about it. Usually, we just said, you dialed 431, they are 434, and that would be the end of it. One night, the power went out, and this time I answered the phone. Keep in mind, at the time I was 10, and my voice was not deep, so I sounded like, and was, just a kid. So this very loud and obnoxious woman is on the other end, and starts screaming right away before I could finish, saying, hello, that the power went out and she was going to miss some TV show and wanted someone to come over right away to fix it. It was a show that was on about 2 hours later. I will refer to her as Crazy Lady. I'm trying this again and I say, you have the wrong number, it's 4. No, I didn't. You need to come over and fix it. No, you have the wrong number. She starts screaming at me and it was literally indistinguishable. Dad then got up and grabbed the phone from me and says, hello, who's this? Again, she could be heard clear across the room. Are you that woman's manager? That's not a woman. That was my 10-year-old son. That should be your first clue. You need to call 431. Stop trying to cover for her. She's bad at her job and you need to get over here and fix this. Notices your bulge. Ooh, woo. This went on for about 5 minutes, and then he just hung up on her while she was in mid-sentence. She called back, and after, they exchanged some, pleasantries. Dad, now taking a different approach. Okay, I am sorry. It's very bye tonight. I'm gonna guess that's busy. It's very busy tonight. He took her information down. Name, phone number, address, everything. As if he was the power company, and they hung up. 2 hours later, the power is still out, and the phone rings. We all know who it was and start to laugh. Dad answers the phone and yup, guess who is on the other end of the line? Not sure how, maybe it was the extraordinary circumstances, but I remembered her address. Where the hell are you? I'm in the living room, talking to some crazy woman who still thinks I'm the power company. Your customer service is horrible, and now I'm missing my show, and it's all your fault. Lady, my son tried to tell you, and I tried to tell you, we are not the power company. This is a private residence. If you don't believe me and you still want to speak with X City Power, you need to look into the phone book. Maybe then you can see that you dialed 431-1234. The power company is 434-1234. Well, why didn't you call the power company and tell them? Lady, I am not your slave, and you've got some frickin' nerve. My dad wasn't adverse to sharing his love of four-letter words with people who annoyed him. Well, is your power out? Yes, it is. When you called the power company for your house, you couldn't tell them to come to my place? We didn't call the power company. We noticed that the whole neighborhood's power is out, so I'm sure they are working on it, lady. By the way, when he called her lady, he had this way of making lady sound like a forbidden four-letter word that sounded like it meant worse than F-head or something. You are so rude. He cuts her off. Lady, you have no idea. Now, I suggest that you hang up before you really start to pee me off. And she hung up. Side note, we live in a smallish town, about 20,000 people, and her place turned out to be a 10-minute walk from ours. That Halloween, about 3 weeks later, was very, very fun and satisfying for me and my friends. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. By the way, she gave out that crappy Halloween hard butterscotch candy that was wrapped in the orange, white, and black wrappers that nobody likes. At least nobody that I know. She was maybe in her 30s, not elderly or anything, so I didn't feel bad about all the soap on her car windows and eggs on her house. We also started to unplug the phone whenever the power went out, and I don't blame you. No one should have to deal with someone that thick in the head. They got a dummy small brain between those two ears. The shopping mall is open and no one's shopping. It is a dust town. It is garbage in there. Get rid of this woman. She deserved to be egged. Posted by user The Epish Deutsch. Titled, It Happened at a Southern Bookstore. Backstory. I am heading to 9th grade next year after this lockdown gets lifted. Because I would be a freshman next year, my mum and I was required to sign some documents at the school and get my schedule completed. When we were getting ready to go, my mum asked the counsellor we were talking to about AP classes. The counsellor told us that there was an AP World History class available in the 9th grade, and I signed up for it immediately. I love history and I hope to make a career out of it in the future. We got the schedule worked out and the documents signed. The counsellor said to stop by the main office on the way out to pick up an info sheet for a summer project in AP World History. We get the paper, and the ladies in the office said I need to read a book for the project. The book I needed to read was A History of the World in 6 Classes. So far, it is an amazing book. If you want to read a book about the evolution of the world through different drinks, I recommend it. A few days later, the story comes into play. Story. My grandfather and I were sitting outside of this bookstore. Am I allowed to say the name of the store? I'm new with this stuff. This is my first post. I'm just going to say the name of the store is BAM. B-A-M. Figure it out. About 5 minutes before the store opens, I grab my mask and go stand with about 4 other people. Because everyone was distracting themselves from each other, I wind up being the one closest to the door. I hear the door being unlocked and step back when the employee opens it to let us in. The door swings open, and I keep it held open so everyone can step inside. It is a southern thing, especially in the state that I'm from. We are known as having a lot of southern hospitality. The first 3 people walked in, and I keep it open for the 4th. She was an older woman who was looking at something on her phone, and I don't think she knew that I was holding the door open. As I keep it open, a man walked by her, causing her to look up. He stepped inside and she followed after, apologizing to me. I walk in and she stops, looking around. There are many stands at the front with advertisements for new books. I didn't notice she had stopped at first, and I had to sidestep to avoid running into her. She turns around and stops me. "Excuse me, I'm looking for a book written by... Oh, what's his name? I don't know his name, but he is known as the My Pillow guy?" She turned back to where all of the book stands were. Would it be up here? Was it published not too long ago? Or would it be in the designated areas towards the back? She asked me. I tried to help anyone who needs it, so I scanned all the book stands that I could see. I say to her, "I don't see anything right up front. It might be on one of the stands further back. If not, I recommend checking the information section back there." I point towards the northeast corner of the building. "Could you help me look? I wouldn't know where to start. This building of yours is huge." I'm kind of pushed for time, ma'am. I can help you look for a moment, but I need to get back home to start my summer projects." "Oh, do they let you go home for personal projects, or are you just finishing your shift?" she asks as we look through some stacks of books. "Shift? Oh, no, ma'am. I'm here to pick up a book I need for a school project." She looks at me with surprise. "I'm sorry, young man, I thought you worked here. I can take it from here if you need to go. The rain's supposed to get here in about an hour, and I live 40 minutes away from here. I can wait a few more minutes if it could help you." "Thank you." We searched for about 2 more minutes and we found the book. She went to the cashier and I went to the customer service because they placed the book on hold for me when I called about it earlier in the week. I paid for it, walked out, and we started back home. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was really positive. That was a really nice one to finish on. And I did her voice there just by chance, not assuming that it was going to be a Karen one. I held out hope that it was going to be a positive story, and Lord above, it was. So I'm really happy with that one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. G'day there guys, Outro Markee here. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Now with that said, we have some special mentions. Everyone that signed up for my Patreon, everyone that's a channel member, you guys all know who you are. I'm going to start putting you on screen in the near future. Sorry, I'm very lazy, but I do love each and every one of you, and you all know that. If you want to join, there is links down in the description below. If you want to be a channel member, there's a join button next to subscribe. It helps me out immensely. Also, I have a second channel that does memes. It's called Markee 2. It should be on screen here now. If you like memes and you want to laugh with me, it's some not so politically correct content all the time. Hope you enjoy it. Click on the screen, subscribe, and enjoy the memes. That's all I have for today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.